Alright guys, BLM here, back with a new video. In this video, I'll be doing a season ranking for American Ninja Warrior. So I'm making this video before ANW 12, so we have 11 seasons to rank here. And to be honest, this was kind of a hard list to put together, mainly because like ANW is a show that I watch and then it doesn't really stick to my mind. I mean, I was a big ANW fan when the show started. I was a big fan of Sasuke, and when ANW was connected to Sasuke, that's when I was the most attached to it. And even a little bit after that, I was still really into the show. Where I'm at right now is I'm a very casual ANW fan. Obviously, I still have all the knowledge that I had from way back then, but I don't pay super close attention to the show itself outside of just straight up watching it. But on this list here, we're going to be ranking all 11 seasons of the show. And let's get started with number 11. Now at number 11, I made a tough choice here. I mean, I decided to be very genuine with these rankings, kind of basing it more so on how good the season actually is, trying to take away the nostalgia aspect of it. So at number 11 here, I have ANW 1. And I mean, it's tough to even call this a good season of television. It really isn't. I mean, at the end of the day, ANW 1 was just a trials for Sasuke. That's essentially what it was. And a very mediocre one at that. I mean, the course design's very basic. And to be honest, kind of boring. The field of competitors isn't that great. The commentary and the editing and everything, it really just isn't that great. It's not that great of a show. However, I do have a lot of nostalgia for it. I mean, it's a season I've probably watched, at least 10 times, if I'm being honest. I've watched this season a lot, and I remember being obsessed with it when it originally came out, just because, again, it was all the Americans trying to get onto Sasuke. I thought that was a really great idea. And it's also just this weird season to watch now, where a lot of the competitors from the season don't compete anymore. And to be honest, a lot of them stopped competing by like ANW 6. I mean, you have some. You have like David Campbell, Brian Cratch, Ryan Stratus, Brett Sims. I mean, Lauren Ball competed here, though his run wasn't shown. But it's really a weird season to watch now. And so many people that were like big names at the time just aren't here anymore. And people like Levi Muhlenberg, Brian Roscoe. But overall, again, it isn't a great season of television. I mean, the finals in this season are just completely ridiculous, where they turned it, instead of an obstacle course sort of thing, they turned it into like endurance challenge. That really does end up screwing over David Campbell, and really screws over a few people, because it's like, again, that has nothing to do with Sasuke, where they were like transporting bricks on the beach, and it's like, why are we doing this? And then the tournament results are kind of disappointing as well, where out of the 10 Americans that make it to Sasuke, 7 of them fail the first stage, most of them being due to timeouts, which is really underwhelming. The 3 that make it to stage 2, Brian Roscoe and Rich King, both failed the unstable bridge, and Levi's the only one to make it to stage 3, and then he fails the cliffhanger in a really unceremonious way. So, I mean, it is kind of a letdown of a season, even though it's the one that started it all, and it's one I have a lot of nostalgia for, but I can't justify considering it a better season than any season that came after it. Now at number 10, we have a season that I hated at the time, and looking back on it, I still don't like it, and that's ANW 6. And for me, ANW 6 is kind of the personification of everything I hate about ANW now, where this is where the show started to become more about sob stories than actual competitors. This is where the show started to prominently feature like 2 or 3 people and then completely ignore a lot of the other competitors. This season was so focused around Joe Moravsky and Casey Catanzaro. And I mean, to be fair, I mean, obviously this is the season where Casey clears the warp wall and then also ends up clearing the finals course. So, I mean, that's cool. Obviously, Michelle Warnke and Megan Martin also cleared the warp wall. But the Casey clear of the finals course is probably one of the most iconic moments for the show, but it's also just one that's so overblown. I mean, I think really if you look at the course that she completed, it was a very easy course. I mean, it was definitely the easiest course of that season, probably the easiest course that we've had since that season. I think Casey Catanzaro as a whole is just a very overblown competitor. I feel like there's much better, even female competitors than her, in Jessie Graff, Jessie Lebrecht, I think Michelle Warnke and Megan Martin are better than Casey Catanzaro in terms of overall skill. But she just hogged up the airtime, not even just in this season, but for the next 4 or 5 seasons after this. And as I said, Joe Moravsky is the last man standing in this season. He gets a lot of screen time here as well. But overall, the results in this tournament are just very disappointing. I mean, we ended up with only 2 people in stage 3, Elliot Hall and Joe Moravsky. And Joe Moravsky just fails on the hang climbing, like a very unceremonious ending for the tournament. So for me, overall, there's not really much positive I can say about this season. It's not really my favorite. it's here at number 10. At number 9, I have one of these seasons that kind of blends together with a lot of other ones. I mean, there is, again, as I said, I did become more of a casual A&W fan. And through that, some seasons kind of just blend together. And we're actually going to go through all 3 of those seasons that kind of blend together for me all in a row here. But at number 9, I have A&W 10. And A&W 10 is kind of a weird case because I think this is where they started to change up the rules for the show. They decreased the age limit to 19, which I think was a great choice. They introduced the Mega Wall, which I thought was a very good introduction to the show. However, I just feel like the results are pretty terrible this season. And between this and the next 2 seasons we'll be talking about, that's really the main difference between these seasons, as I feel like production value-wise and course-wise, they're all relatively the same. But the results here in this season were so underwhelming, where it felt like we were poised to have a winner this season. Such a great field of athletes, but then we get to stage 2 and they learn nothing from A&W 9, where they make stage 2 so ridiculously difficult again. Keeping Wingnut Alley there, that eliminates a big chunk of the field. The water walls is just a terrible obstacle, and that causes Najee to time out, to where we only have 2 people reach the 3rd stage, Sean Bryan and Drew Drechsel. And the problem with the new rule that they added, the new rule that makes it so the last man standing gets a prize from this point on, that really made it so that these 2 competitors weren't even really trying to complete the course. They were more focused on beating each other first. And because of that, they both failed the cliffhanger. I remind you, Sean Bryan probably fails the cliffhanger anyway. But I definitely think Drew failed the cliffhanger because of that. I think he wasted energy trying to beat Sean Bryan. It wasn't really focused on beating the course, was more so focused on getting that initial prize. I think that leads to this finale episode being one of the most underwhelming episodes in the history of the show. And when looking through the season, there just aren't that many memorable moments for me. So for me, it ranks here at number 9. At number 8, I have A&W 8. Yeah. And yeah, I don't dislike A&W 8. I mean, from this point on, I pretty much like every season here. I mean, to a degree. Obviously, I do have issues with the show just as a whole. Again, the sob stories, the show's sense of self-importance. Like, there's things that annoy me about the show in general. And A&W 8 definitely still has those things, probably more so than A&W 10, as I do feel like they've been getting better recently. But A&W 8 is a tournament that is immediately after a total victory. And I think it does a pretty good job at being an evolution of the previous tournament. I mean, I do think there's a couple things that would have changed. Definitely some obstacles in stage 1, but either way, I do think this was a pretty solid course. I think we get some pretty fun results, some very shocking results, in like Jeff Britton failing the first obstacle, Travis Rosen failing the first obstacle. We have Jesse Graff stage 1 clear. I actually like the double wedge as an obstacle. I know that's a controversial opinion, but I thought that was a fun obstacle. And we did get a 3rd stage with Drew Drechsel and Daniel Gale, and I do think we got a pretty underwhelming fail there. Yeah, I just feel like the hang climbing isn't a great obstacle to end a tournament at, even though it happens 2 times in A&W's history. But overall, though, I did really enjoy this season still, though it definitely has more faults than any season we'll be talking about after this. And number 7, the final season of these that I talked about that like kind of just blend together for me. I mean, kind of in this weird sort of period in A&W where, to be honest, I didn't really care that much. And we have A&W 9. And A&W 9 is a tough one to rank. And I am putting it above these other 2 seasons just because I feel like it's the most memorable of these 3 seasons for me. I think the course design on this season was very strong. I mean, a lot of that had to do with the new obstacles that were being introduced through the obstacle submission thing that they were started doing with the fans. And I thought that introduced some really great obstacles here. One of those being the wing nuts, and that leads to us having Wingnut Alley, which I know a lot of people consider the worst part of this season. I think for the first time it's there, I think Wingnut Alley is great. And I'm someone that likes it when like a whole bunch of people fail one obstacle, but then we eventually get some clears on it. I feel like Wingnut Alley is that sort of thing where we got so many Wingnut Alley fails from some major competitors. But then we had people break through. Again, Joe Moravsky, Najee, and Sean Bryan all cleared Wingnut Alley. Were able to clear stage 2. But then we also have the really shocking fail, obviously, from Drew Drechsel, which I think is probably one of the most shocking fails in all of A&W, quite possibly. I mean, again, like this was a season where Drew Drechsel was like poised to win it all. And for him to go out on Wingnut Alley, especially in the way that he did, is a really shocking fail there. And we got a decent stage 3. I mean, obviously 2 cliffhanger fails from Najee and Sean, but Joe Moravsky was able to beat the ultimate cliffhanger and get to the time bomb, which I actually like as an obstacle. I mean, I don't think it's the greatest way to end a tournament, but I thought it was a decent enough obstacle, and I do think it's kind of a shame that they got rid of it. But again, overall, A&W 9 for me is the one that sticks out to my mind. I remember the wingnut fails. I remember Joe in stage 3. I remember these things. I remember Drew's fail, obviously. So it's like that one sticks out to my mind. So ANW 9 here I have at number 7. Now at number 6, we're back to the old school seasons of ANW. And again, this is one that I have so much nostalgia for, but I couldn't justify putting it any higher than number 6, and that is ANW 2. I love ANW 2. I mean, ANW 2, again, it's a simpler time. It's when ANW was just a trials for Sasuke, but there's so many fun moments from this, I feel like. I really like the qualifying course. I thought this one was a much better version of ANW 1's, where Bridge of Blades was a big killer there. I really like having the jumping bars where it was. I thought it was a fun course. They obviously added the Salmon Ladder to the semifinals, so that was a cool addition as well. The competitive field definitely got a bit stronger. Not as strong as it will be later, obviously, but there were some strong new faces here. And I know this might be a controversial opinion as well, but I like Boot Camp. I really liked Boot Camp. I kind of wish they would bring it back. I thought it was fun. Maybe even make it its own show. I think that would be fun. Like an American Ninja Warrior spinoff of just Boot Camp. I mean, obviously, it's kind of ridiculous. It takes tropes from like Survivor and really just any other reality show, but I thought it was a fun time. I mean, I thought they added a decent amount of strategy to this show, which I thought was fun. I mean, the Patrick Cusick moment is a really iconic moment for me, where he refuses to go on the rope, and through that, he makes it into the top 10 and makes it to Japan. I thought the results in Japan were very interesting. I mean, the rolling escargot is a great obstacle. Got 5 people in stage 2. Travis Forlonix fails, a real shocker there. And it is kind of anticlimactic that the tournament technically ends with like kind of a mediocre cliffhanger fail from David Campbell, or if you want to consider the Brian Orozco fail, the last one, and that's even more underwhelming. So it's like really not a great end to the tournament, but I thought overall it's a fun ride. It's a season that I have a lot of nostalgia for, but also I just genuinely enjoy on the rewatch. Like, unlike the ANW 1, while I have a lot of nostalgia for that season, I don't think it's a good season of the show. I think ANW 2 is a solid season of the show. Ranks here at number 6. At number 5, I have a season that I remember being mind blown at the time that this was happening, and that is ANW 4. And ANW 4 is the first season of American Ninja Warrior where they expanded to not be a trial for Sasuke, but to be its own individual show with 100 people going to Vegas to compete on an American version of the course. And that just blew my mind at the time. And just the fact that they were going across the country to hold these essentially trials for the Vegas course was just a mind-blowing concept to me. And this is when the show really expands. We start to get more competitors. As obviously before, you would have to fly all the way to LA. Now you can go to more cities around the world. I mean, to be fair, there was only 3 in this season, but still better than nothing. Course design, I do think the preliminary courses were kind of underwhelming. And really, even the finals course in Vegas was kind of underwhelming. I mean, it was more of Sasuke 27, which was the last Sasuke that America went to. But then they modified to certain things, like the rolling log was there instead of the rolling escargot, which I think is a massive downgrade. And really, just overall, stage 1 was a much easier course than Sasuke, with the exception of the spinning bridge, which was made more difficult because they couldn't make the obstacle properly, which is just this entire season in general. They couldn't make anything properly. Stage 2 is a complete mess. Like, a complete mess. There's stuff that went on that wasn't in the show. I mean, the slider drop had some major issues there. They had to do reruns because of that. Major one is the fact that Brent Stephenson, he clears stage 2 in this season, is the only one to make it to stage 3. But there are trusted sources out there that say that Brent Stephenson didn't clear stage 2. And what happens is that the producers were messing with the clock and everything, and then obviously got a stage 2 clear over Brent Stephenson because they wanted a stage 3. Which, I mean, to be fair, it doesn't really end up mattering that much because he fails stage 3 anyway. And, I mean, he does actually clear the ultimate cliffhanger, which is obviously an obstacle that hadn't been cleared before in American Ninja Warrior, though this version of the Ultimate Cliffhanger was much, much easier than the Japanese version. The ledges are much bigger than they are in the original Japanese version. So really, it's not that big of a deal, but the show definitely makes it out to be a big deal. But again, like, this is a great season. For me, it's like, it's a mix of like the old school stuff that I enjoyed from ANW's 1 through 3, but then also having the format of the more modern American Ninja Warrior. It's kind of a weird transitional season for the show. And because of that, I do really, really enjoy it. But it's definitely not perfect. It has its faults. Course design is extremely weak on this season. The results are a bit underwhelming. So for me, it lands here at number 5. At number 4, I have another kind of older season. I mean, it's the season directly after American Ninja Warrior 4. And that's American Ninja Warrior 5. I think American Ninja Warrior 5, just from an objective standpoint, does everything ANW 4 does, but better. I think it has better course design. I think we got a new slew of competitors while still retaining the old competitors, which again, after this season, they start to drop off. But on this season, we still have like the Brian Orozco's, a lot of the parkour guys. I mean, those guys still competed as of ANW 5 and started to drop out due to some contractual stuff later on. But this is also a great season of results. I mean, this was a fantastic Stage 2 and Stage 3, where Stage 2 was still somewhat difficult, but we got a lot of clears from that, a lot of new names clearing too. And in Stage 3, we had obviously fantastic results with Brian Arnold making it all the way to the flying bar, and this being pretty much the first time that total victory looked plausible. Now, I will say that for me, ANW 5 isn't as memorable as ANW 4. Like, ANW 4, I can remember like every single result from that season. ANW 5, not as much. ANW 4, I know every single course. I know all the obstacles. ANW 5, not as much. But ANW 5 is a better season all around objectively. It lands here at number 4. Now at number 3, we have the final of the older seasons. My personal favorite of the older seasons. And if I were to go purely based on favorite season here, ANW 3 is probably number 1. But right now, it's here at number 3. And again, I really love this season. This is what I love the American Ninja Warrior for. And I think ANW 3 improves upon ANW 2 in every single way. I think the course is really strong. I mean, they made the Bridge of Blades a bit easier, but then again, they were harder, not on purpose last time. But they also added the jump hang, which I thought was a really great addition to the course. I made the course a little bit slower, but overall, still good addition. Law grip was kind of just okay, but again, really like the qualifying. A lot of new faces here, some big names now. People like Drew Dreschel, Flip Rodriguez, Travis Rosen, and James McGrath had their breakout runs here. Tim Sheaf was someone that was a big name at this point as well. And we still retain people like obviously David Campbell, Brian Orozco, Travis Furlanick, Paul Casimir. I mean, all these people as well. Again, just a great combination of some really great old school names while also having some of the people that would become more prominent in later seasons. The finals course was a really fun course as well with the unstable bridge. Again, I've said this before, I like it when like one obstacle dominates the field, but then there's a couple people that can break through. Here, only one did, but it was Ryan Stratis. This was his breakout run. He was able to beat the unstable bridge. And mind you, the unstable bridge in this season was kind of wonky. I mean, a lot of that had to do with the wind. The wind was rocking it back and forth and made the obstacle a lot more difficult. But also, you could just tell that just from a design standpoint, they didn't really know what they were doing with it, considering it was kind of uneven to begin with. But either way, Ryan Stratis beats the unstable bridge. That's a great moment for this season. We have the return of boot camp, which isn't as dynamic as the last season. I feel like ANW 2 had some more drama involved with it, but I still liked it here in ANW 3. And we get everyone going to Sasuke 27, which Sasuke 27 is one of my favorite Sasuke tournaments, and the Americans had a massive showing there, where out of the 10 Americans that were there, 9 of them cleared Stage 1, and the only one that didn't was Drew Dreschel, and that's because he got injured. I mean, he was well poised to clear Stage 1 if that didn't happen. But Stage 2 is great as well. We had some really shocking fails. Again, flip on the slider drop. I mean, Jake Smith on Salmon Ladder was kind of predictable, but all those metal spin fails were really great. Travis Furlanick, Travis Rosen, and Brent Stephenson was like really mind-blowing they failed the metal spin at that season. But we get 4 people making it to Stage 3, and they all failed the ultimate cliffhanger, but we obviously have the really iconic David Campbell fail where he makes to the very last ledge of the cliffhanger and just couldn't get his feet on the platform. And it's really a tragic end to this season of American Ninja Warrior, but a really great one at that. Again, for me, this is just a season that really sticks out to my mind. When I think of American Ninja Warrior, I think of this season. But objectively, it's not as good as these next 2 seasons, so for me, it lands here at number 3. Now we're number 2, and this was tough. My number 1 and number 2 seasons are very, very close. And I really took a long time to debate over the 2, and I decided to go with number 2 here. I have ANW 7. And ANW 7, at the time that it aired, I think objectively it was the best season. I think it still has the issues of sob stories and wonky editing, but when you take that away, I think just results-wise, it's the best season of the show. I think obstacle-wise, I think there's some great course designs in this season. I really like Roulette Row as an obstacle in Stage 2, and I think that's another obstacle that we saw a lot of fails on, but the people that cleared it, I thought was a really riveting clear. Got a lot of people in Stage 3, which is always great, and had some pretty fun results there as well, with people like Ian Dory getting so close to make it to the final stage, and obviously Isaac Caldiero and Jeff Britton both clearing the 3rd stage, which is a great moment in its own, but then they both cleared the final stage as well, becoming the first 2 American Ninja Warriors. That's kind of another like kind of knock against the season for me, is the fact that Isaac gets all the money and Jeff doesn't get anything. Like, it's kind of funny because like I'm 100% sure that was an oversight by production, that they wrote that into the rules that, oh, the person that gets the fastest time on the final stage gets the money. But like, I don't think they ever thought that was actually going to happen. I do think there's a lot of positives about this season of the show. Just overall a solid season with some really great results. So for me, it lands here at number 2. And at number 1, I'm very surprised at this because, again, like, I didn't think this would be number 1, but I just kept on thinking about it, and I just feel like I think it deserves it. And that is A&W 11, the most recent season of the show. And I think a lot of the reason why I have this at number 1 is because I feel like they're fixing a lot of the flaws. I mean, there are still sob stories in the season, but I feel like they're greatly reduced. I feel like the focus on big characters has also been reduced in favor of people that are actually doing well in the course. The addition of the Power Tower is a massive boon to this season. I think the Power Tower is just a really fun aspect of the show in general, but also it changes the editing style. It makes it so they're forced to show these people that make it to the Power Tower, showing their runs, and again, making the show more focused on the actual course than these people's stories. And again, I really love that aspect of the show. We also still have the Mega Wall in effect, and I think that's still a lot of fun. I think the results from the Power Tower are really great as well. The Vegas results were really fun as well. I mean, stage 1 seemed to be pretty brutal, even though I don't feel like they made it that much more difficult. Though I did like the modifications that they made throughout. Stage 2 was kind of a joke. I will admit that. Stage 2 is a joke. New obstacles really had almost no effect on the entire course. But stage 3 was just so much fun. I mean, there were so many people in stage 3, and again, it's kind of ridiculous that many made it to stage 3. But it was still a lot of fun to watch. I loved to watch more stage 3 runs. And it's not even like we got like a ridiculous number of people clearing stage 3 either. Like, we got a lot of fails there, and I feel like that was just a lot of fun. I mean, all those Cane Lane fails were really great to watch. I mean, Joe Moravsky was a big shocker there. Adam Rail failing at the end of Cane Lane was a big shocker as well. But we had obviously the 2 people break out. We had Daniel Gill and Drew Dressel both clearing stage 3, making it to the final stage. And we had Drew being the 3rd American Ninja Warrior. I mean, I think that was just such a great result for this season. I mean, Drew is someone that, it was a long time coming. I mean, he's always been the top dog in American Ninja Warrior for so long now. For him to finally achieve total victory, I think it was a very warranted victory. Mind you, again, kind of wrapped around controversy in the fact that he did need the safety pass, as he did fail stage 1. Though I do think in a way, I think he would have been a bit more cautious if he didn't have the safety pass. So it's kind of a tough thing to really assess. But I mean, at the end of the day, he did complete all 4 stages and did achieve total victory. I did think it sucked that Daniel Gill wasn't able to clear the final stage, though. Again, he was really close, but I guess it is what it is. But yeah, I really love A&W 11. I thought results-wise, it's really great. I think editing-wise, they made massive improvements. I really love the Power Tower. I like the new Mega Wall rules. I mean, just overall, I love this season for what it is. And again, while I'll always go back and think of A&W's 1, 2, and 3 when I think of American Ninja Warrior, in terms of what the show is, especially nowadays, I do think A&W 11 is the peak of American Ninja Warrior. So for me, A&W 11 here is at number 1. So there we go. That is my season ranking for American Ninja Warrior. Obviously, A&W 12 is coming, and I will be doing a review of that when that season is done. I would like to get around to making more Sasuke videos. I don't know when I'll be able to, but we'll see. But overall, that's the video. That's my ranking of the American Ninja Warrior seasons. Thank you for watching.